In this brief tutorial, we're going to cover and troubleshoot the situations where you don't see your therapists in the system. You're not able to find them in the database in order to schedule sessions or add them as team members. The reasons that you are not able either to see your therapist in the system or you are able to see them and cannot add them to sessions for the kids fall into four categories. Let's look at the very first one. One of the screens that you normally see your therapists are the scheduler grid view, where your therapists and employees are displayed under the select employee list on the left hand panel. Right now, I'm looking for a therapist called Tolstoy, Leo Tolstoy, and as you can see, he is nowhere to be found on this list. This list is alphabetically ordered, and Tolstoy is not here. The very first thing that you need to check, the very first category where the therapists are not displayed, are falling into the active as opposed to deactivated employees. Let's go to our employees tab and retrieve all the active employees. Once you go to that employee module, the default checkbox for active employees only is selected, so you'll be able to see all your active therapists and office staff. As you can see on the grid view in the middle of the screen, you're not able to see Leo Tolstoy. Leo Tolstoy is not there, so you're sure that he is not active. So what you do, you deselect the checkbox and search for your deactivated employees to make sure whether or not he's been already entered into the system and it's been deactivated, and that's the case. We're able to see him here, so you know that it's deactivated. That's the reason you're not able to see him. You click anywhere on that row to go into the therapist profile, and the default screen is the demographic biographic screen. And at the bottom of the screen, you have the checkbox that is called Is Staff Active? And that's deactivated by deselecting the checkbox. All you have to do is just select the checkbox and save the new updated status, and the system informs you that the staff biographic information is saved and updated. You go to the employee module one more time, and all the active employees are displayed in the middle of the screen in the table, and as you see, Leo Tolstoy is now being activated. If you go to the scheduler grid view where we were not able to find him, you go to the select employee list on the left hand panel, and Leo is displayed among the rest of the therapists that are in the system. So that's the first reason you're not able to see your therapist in the system. They are deactivated. Now, there are activated active employees and therapists that are in the system, but for some reason you're not able to add them to sessions, add them to manage teams, and input their availability time, despite the fact that they are active and are displayed on the scheduler grid view. Now we go to the second reason why you're not able to add these therapists to the kids sessions, and that is a complete profile. The system considers a therapist having a complete profile by having all the basic demographic info entered in addition to their payroll. There is a tab among other tabs in the therapist profile that is called payroll rate. If you click on that, you will see a warning that says rates for all activities must be entered before assigning clients to the provider. So in this case, Leo cannot be assigned to any team for the kids or cannot have sessions until all the activities, all the global activities that are in the system have had some value assigned to them. You click on add payroll, and all the pending activities are displayed under the activity list. as I mentioned, if even the therapist does not perform some of these activities, the system still requires you to assign a value to it. And there is a good shortcut in the system to ensure that you don't spend too much time entering the data one by one for each activity. You simply select the checkbox next to apply to all activities. All the activities are selected. You enter the rate. Let's say in this case, $23, the mileage rate, 56 cents per mile, and you save that information, and all the activities are uploaded. Now, in case this therapist does not perform a particular activity, or there is a different rate for a particular activity, all you have to do is just click the pencil icon, which is the edit icon, under the action column, and select that particular activity. Let's say we're going to change the drive time, which is an unbillable activity, and they get $10 for drive time. And since the mileage is already entered, you can change that or modify it or keep it as is, and click the save, and that information is updated in the system. If the therapist does not perform a particular activity, for example, he's a paraprofessional who doesn't do report writing, all you have to do click on the pencil icon and turn the value to 0. So as you can see, even if the therapist does not perform an activity, you cannot have him have that activity sitting in the pending list. This list has to be blank, meaning that all the activities have to be uploaded into the grid view on the upper portion of the screen with some sort of value, even if that value is 0. This is the main reason that a therapist who is already activated in the system will not show up in the database to be added as a team member or added as a therapist who can have sessions scheduled for the kid. The third reason that a therapist cannot be assigned to a kid as a team member or have sessions with that kid falls into the insurance setup. On those tabs in the employee profile, there is one that is called payer exclusion. And this is the third reason you are not able to see a particular therapist assigned to a kid. Payer exclusion is the screen where you assign a particular payer in your database as one of the payers that the therapist cannot render sessions. In this case, Leo Tolstoy has been excluded from Lantern Man Regional Center. So those kids who have Lantern Man as a funding source in their authorization, Leo will not be able to render session, and as a result, the system has safeguards in the back end that will prevent you from assigning him as a team member or as you're scheduling sessions for that kid with this particular regional center as a funding source. You will not be able to see Leo among the list of providers that can perform that session or have that session scheduled for him. Fourth reason where you cannot assign a kid to a therapist has to do with the treatment type. If you look at the therapist's demographic profile, there is a field that is called treatment type. And this is mostly applicable to multidisciplinary practices where, in addition to behavior therapy, occupational or speech therapy or other treatment types are also offered. When a therapist is assigned to a particular treatment type, if in this case behavior therapy, and if the kid has authorization that is assigned as speech therapy or occupational therapy, obviously the services cannot be rendered by this particular therapists because the treatment types are different. As I mentioned, this is not frequently happening because most practices have behavior therapy as the default treatment type. But in case your practice provides different services in different categories, this is also one of those criteria that you need to look into in case you do not see your therapists in the database. To recap, there are 4 reasons where you are not able to see your therapists in the database, or if you see them, you're not able to add them to sessions for particular kids. The very first one is whether or not the therapist has been activated in the system or they are still in the deactivated list. You will see your active employees in the active grid list. The second reason, which is the most important reason, is when the therapist does not have all the global activities value assigned to it and displayed in the middle grid view. In other words, if you go to the payroll tab for the therapist, if you see an activity, a global activity sitting here in the activity list, that is a red flag for you, and you know that the system does not consider the therapist profile complete, and as the result, he is not displayed in your database to be selected for sessions, even though he is available in the scheduler grid view for non-billable activities. The third reason is if the therapist is being excluded from a particular funding source. As a result, you'll not be able to schedule sessions for the kids who have that funding source, that particular insurance as the funding source. And finally, if the therapist treatment type does not match the treatment type that has been assigned to the authorization for the kid.